Hey guys, Coach Bricks, Coach James, the Game Changers. It's after the season training. All right, this is vital. All right, to success. All right, to your recovery. Also, to how you're going to feel for the rest of your life. A lot of people neglect after season training. Yes, do you want to take time off? There's no question about it. If you're going to another sport, now's the time to actually get your body healed, prepared, ready to go. So if I'm playing soccer, going into basketball, you have probably 3-4 weeks tops that you have to get ready. This is the time to actually prepare your body. All right, transition from soccer, all right, stuff that you're doing, and getting the body ready for basketball. All right, I remember coming from college. I played college soccer, going into basketball. I'll never forget. I think we finished up a game on a Tuesday. That Saturday, I had my first scrimmage in basketball, so they overlapped a lot in college. So I missed a lot of that preseason because they wouldn't let me go to preseason. I'd sneak into practices here and there, but the majority of times I was not allowed to go. In case of injuries, the soccer coach would not be happy. So when I did that, my first game back, I was trash, absolutely trash. I could run all day long, but it was not the same. Okay, it was not the same. It was not the same as the sprint, the stop, the jump, the acceleration, deceleration, the change of direction. Totally different. My body was not prepared for that at all. I can't tell you how many layups I missed, okay, in that scrimmage. And that's the incident that I talk about a lot with my kids. That's when that whole thing occurred. One of the incidents with the referee, that's when that all occurred during that time period. So that is the time that I wish I would have understood the body better, to understand what I should have done, maybe even skip that scrimmage and prepared it for the following week when we had another scrimmage before our opening season started up. But that's why it's so vitally important for athletes, because a lot of them, they don't do anything. Okay, they stop and they just get ready for the next sport, but their body's not prepared. The body's not ready. And even if you go to tryouts, you do all that stuff, that's great. You start your open gyms, fantastic. But you need to start taking care, especially if you've had injuries. Even if you had injuries early on in the season, you need to start working on making sure that they're not going to affect you later on in your next sport. Okay? Now, if you don't play another sport, say you're soccer, we all know soccer, you have about a month off at that, and then you're right back to your club, and you're right back into it. You need to make sure you're right away strength training, because we all know club, 2 to 3 days a week, probably practice not quite as much as the high school season does every day, but that's when you really want to start amping it up. You want to start ramping up those kind of training sessions, get your body prepared for your club season so it's ready to go. I mean, I think that's one of the biggest neglects that I see over the 20 plus years, is that kids just don't follow up, or they don't understand the importance of all season. You know what I mean? At this time, yeah, it's summer, they get preseason ready, but they're not understanding now. This is the time that you actually have to prepare your body. And if you look at your best athletes, a lot of them take time away from the sport, okay? So that's the key. Baseball guys are done, unless you're in the playoffs. Most of those guys will not pick a baseball up until sometime after Christmas, okay? January. Okay, did you hear what I said? These guys make millions of dollars. Your kids make zero. Actually, you're forking out money left and right, okay? But yet, you play them all year round. Tell me how that makes sense. This is the time to build the body. I've had people that have played major leagues. When they're done, they're done. They come in here, they work with me, or they're down with their team in the all season. Not throwing, they're working out. Okay, strengthening the body, healing up their injuries, getting their bodies ready mentally, all that kind of stuff for the season coming up. But they don't pick up baseball. I remember one of my kids, great catcher. So when are you going back down to throw? This is in November when we were talking around Thanksgiving. He goes, I won't go back down until January when they, call back pitchers and catchers. I said, so you haven't thrown since the end of the season? He goes, nope. Because I don't plan to pick on anything up. This is what I'm going to do. Boom, boom, boom. And it paid dividends. But yet, for some reason, we think high school, junior high kids, we just pound them all into the ground all year long, and that's normal. Okay. So we got to start thinking differently if we want to have longevity with our athletes. Also, stop the risk of all these injuries and get their mind right. All right, so they're not quitting sports by the age of 13. The majority of athletes quit the sport, okay, that they love by the age, I think it's 75% quit by the age of 13. High number. So James, what do you see with athletes when their season comes in, and you're a former athlete, you know, I know you're actually, I shouldn't say that, you're still training and stuff like that with a lot of your stuff. But what do you see with the athletes that you deal with who are coming in after the season?
Yep. So I think, like you had mentioned, if you're going into another sport, being able to know, okay, the demands of basketball are completely different of what you're going to see on a soccer field, and being able to switch what you're doing to meet more of those demands of doing more plyometric stuff, doing more jumping, being able to do those quicker, small reaction, more coordination, hand-eye coordination things than you would on a soccer field, as opposed to basketball, and being able to kind of switch what you're doing, especially in training, to fit more of what you're going to see on a basketball court. I think one of the biggest things that you see with a lot of the higher end high school athletes and then college kids that we see come back, and we'll see them in the off season, primarily in the summer, but when they come back during like Christmas break and stuff like that, they'll say, hey, I need to work on this. I struggled with this in my season. I think that's the biggest thing, is being able to address those things, take like that week off or whatever after your season's done, and reflect back on, man, I really got burned on my being able to change direction. And I got burned as an outside back that I couldn't quick change directions and get back on defense. And I just kept getting burned by all these wingers that were just quicker than me, and I couldn't react. And being able to say, come in and tell your coaches, soccer coaches, or your strength coaches, us, and being able to say, hey, I need to really work on this. I struggled with this in my season. And we can go, okay, we'll add that in. We'll make sure that you're ready for club. And you don't see a lot of that with a lot of kids, that they're like, my season went good. They're like, okay, well, is there anything you want to work on? I don't know. I want to get stronger.
Yeah, and I think, you know, just to jump in here right here, I think you named it right. They got to know what they got to work on, and some kids don't. That's when you go to your coach and ask them in a polite way, Coach, what do you feel I need to work on this all season so I'm ready for next year? I think a lot of kids and a lot of parents, their egos are too big, they don't fit indoors inside anymore, you know, fit through the doors, that they don't understand that. Ask your coach what you need to work on. Yes, ball skill wise, that's not my forte. Okay, I played goalkeeper for 15 years. Okay, so when it comes to skill to soccer, that's not me. But I can tell you what your specific area needs, but you also got to ask your coach where your weakness is. Okay, and you should know to some extent where your weaknesses is as an athlete. Your parents should see it, and you should also know, like, hey, listen, man, I really, like Coach James said, I really struggled with my transition. Going from one movement to the next, I struggled. It was slow. If you watch pros and how quickly they change, that's why they're pros. They're not pros just because they can control the ball so beautifully well. You watch how smooth all their movements are. That is what athletes miss. That I see high school athletes who have great skill, they miss out on that key component of how well they transition from one move to the next. The guys that I've had have gone pros and have done well in college, they have that because they've worked on it. High school kids, for some reason, parents, they just think more skill, and then neglect the fundamental, basic fundamental, and then they miss out on that. And that's what you should not miss out on. That's one area that everybody can work on. You know, I mean, I might not be the most skilled as James when it comes to basketball or soccer, okay? But I can still give just as much effort, if not more than James, okay? And I can still work on and improve my speed, my change of direction, all those things. Then you add in the skill stuff that you're gonna do, sky's the limit to how great you can be. So it's definitely on that. So go ahead, I'm sorry, James.
No, I think one of the points that you mentioned there at the end hits home for what that we've mentioned past couple weeks, is adding on outside of your skill stuff. That, like you had mentioned, you can have all the skill in the world, but if there's kids that are faster than you and can get to that ball faster than you, then it doesn't matter how great you are. If you can't get the ball, or you're losing the ball every 2 seconds because there's kids that are quicker than you, stronger than you, then it doesn't matter how much. You could have all the skill in the world, like you said, but if you don't have those fundamental things that we teach here in terms of strength, change in direction, deceleration, acceleration, then all that skill can only get you so far. And you really start to see that as you get to those higher levels, that you see, well, that kid might have most talented kid on the court of the field, but if he can't, there's a kid that's outworking him to that ball every single time. Can't do much if you don't have the ball, or you're losing that ball every single time.
Yeah, I think you're spot on. So definitely get yourself signed up. Get in here, get an assessment. I talk about it all the time. I can't tell you and stress how important an assessment is. Even adults, if you're gonna bring your child in, stay, work out. Gosh, get your body in shape. Be the example you need to be for your kids. This is about longevity. This is how you take care of your body. The healthcare system in this country is a train wreck. Don't add to it by having to go there all the time. Fix it, right? And how you fix it is you take care of your body, take care of yourself, so you don't need to utilize those services unless it's an emergency. Let's start doing that, but we need to start understanding how the body works, and understanding that is you got to know what you need to work on in the off season. Ask your coach, then come in here, hey, my coach said I need to work on acceleration, deceleration, whatever, and I feel I need to work on X, Y, and Z. Then we can put it together once we see the assessment and go on. All right, guys, this is Coach Bricks.
Coach James.
Game Changers.